The broadcast begins with a tension so thick it feels almost tangible, the kind of tension that makes viewers lean forward in disbelief. The cameras cut to Alex Jones, his face a storm of intensity, eyes bulging with the manic energy that has defined his career. He launches into his opening tirade, mocking, interrupting, and ridiculing Jasmine Crockett before she even has a chance to respond. The studio lights glare down like spotlights on a battlefield, the live audience holding their collective breath as words fly faster than reason can keep pace. Every sneer, every derisive laugh, every dismissive gesture is magnified on screens. Across the country, viewers at home feel it. The villain is in full force, and the stakes have never been higher. Jasmine Crockett sits poised, a study in calm and determination, her hands clasped lightly, her gaze unwavering. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't rise to the bait, but the camera catches the faintest tightening of her jaw, a quiet signal that the storm of words around her will meet its match. The contrast could not be sharper. Chaos versus composure. Bluster versus intelligence. Arrogance versus integrity. Every viewer senses the brewing collision, the inevitable moment when the villain's overconfidence will meet a force he underestimated. The opening exchange escalates almost instantly. Jones' voice rises, a torrent of interruption and mockery, peppered with provocative asides aimed to unsettle her. Yet Crockett's measured silence speaks volumes, commanding attention in a way that words alone rarely achieve. The tension pulses, a living thing coiling tighter with each passing second. The audience, both in the studio and online, can feel the suspense building, a collective anticipation that something extraordinary is about to occur. Then comes the unspoken promise of justice, of dignity, of truth confronting bluster. The viewers know, even before a word is spoken in response, that this is not a typical media clash. Something unprecedented is poised to happen. The villain, emboldened by his reputation and past victories, has stepped into a narrative far larger than himself. The hero, grounded in experience, intellect, and unshakable composure, is ready. And in the pause before the storm breaks, the air feels electric with possibility, leaving every viewer on the edge of their seat, hearts pounding, wondering, how exactly will Jasmine Crockett dismantle this provocateur on air? The tension in the studio is only the surface. Beyond the glare of the cameras and the live audience, this exchange represents a much deeper confrontation. A battle not just between two personalities, but between values, credibility, and the very trust that the public places in those who claim to inform them. Alex Jones, with his long history of provocative commentary, wields influence not just through sheer volume, but by shaping narratives that often blur the line between fact and spectacle. His reputation is built on chaos, controversy, and the uncanny ability to rattle anyone who dares to challenge him. On the other side sits Jasmine Crockett, a rising political figure whose voice carries the weight of experience, reason, and principled advocacy. The contrast could not be starker. The villain thrives in confusion, while the hero thrives in clarity. As viewers, the stakes are immediately apparent. This is not just a clash for ratings or clicks. It is a symbolic confrontation that mirrors the larger battles taking place across American society. The world is watching how dignity confronts provocation, how composure counters chaos, and how intellect can dismantle bluster. Every sentence Jones hurls, every sneering inflection, is a calculated attempt to dominate the narrative. Yet Crockett's quiet, unwavering presence hints that something extraordinary is coming, a reversal that could resonate far beyond this single broadcast. The audience senses it instinctively. What happens next will not only redefine the immediate confrontation, but could set a precedent for how truth meets aggression in public discourse. To fully appreciate the stakes, it helps to understand the forces at play. Alex Jones has cultivated a legion of followers who expect spectacle, outrage, and the occasional moral ambiguity. His influence stretches across media channels, social platforms, and even political commentary circuits. To challenge him on air is to risk not just public ridicule, but the amplification of every misstep. Yet Crockett enters this arena with more than just a well-prepared argument. She carries the weight of a public mandate, a record of advocacy, and a clarity of purpose that the villain cannot anticipate. Her very presence forces the narrative into a space of accountability and reason. The dramatic tension intensifies as the cameras capture every nuance. The audience at home, already drawn in by the headlines, feels a sense of anticipation, a pulse of FOMO that something historic is about to unfold. Every interruption from Jones, every raised eyebrow, every mocking tone is a trigger that escalates the suspense. Meanwhile, Crockett's calm posture, the slight narrowing of her eyes, the deliberate pacing of her breathing signal that the storm is about to meet an immovable force. This is the moment where composure becomes power, where preparation becomes strategy, and where the hero's strength is revealed not through volume but through timing, poise, and precision. Hints of the climax already ripple through the broadcast. The audience senses that the exchange will not be resolved in the first volley of words. There will be a turning point, a moment when arrogance meets accountability, and when the villain's confidence begins to crack under the weight of truth. Every viewer is caught in the anticipatory beat, a cinematic pause that holds them captive. Hungry for resolution, desperate to see the hero rise while the villain falters. This is not mere entertainment. It is an unfolding story that validates every ideal of courage, clarity, and dignity. The stage is now set. The stakes have been raised from a simple on-air debate to a battle that symbolizes integrity versus chaos, reason versus bluster, and preparation versus impulse. The audience is primed, the cameras are rolling, and the villain believes he holds all the power. Yet everyone watching knows that the next words, the next response, have the potential to change everything. The anticipation is electric, the narrative tension unbearable, and the stage perfectly arranged for the hero to turn the tide. What happens next is not just a response, it is a reckoning, a moment that will be remembered long after the broadcast ends. Alex Jones is not just a provocateur, he is an institution of chaos. To understand the magnitude of the confrontation unfolding on air, one must first grasp the intricate web of influence he has spun over decades. Born into a world where controversy equaled visibility, Jones quickly learned how to turn outrage into power. His rise was fueled by a combination of relentless aggression, instinctive showmanship, and an uncanny ability to exploit fear. He cultivated a persona that thrives on confrontation, one that thrives when others stumble, hesitate, or falter under pressure. In his world, the louder you are, the more control you command. Every sneer, every exaggeration, every dramatic gesture is a calculated move to dominate the narrative. Throughout his career, Jones has perfected the art of intimidation. Interviews, debates, and broadcasts became arenas where his tactics were unmistakably clear: provoke, unsettle, and maintain the upper hand through sheer audacity. Those who have faced him often speak of a strange mixture of awe and dread, of being drawn into a whirlwind of rhetoric that feels as much psychological as it does verbal. His arrogance is legendary, a shield he wields with precision, and his confidence borders on invulnerability. For years, his presence in media has been marked by disruption and spectacle, a relentless force that few dared to challenge directly. Yet beneath the bravado lies a pattern of contradiction. Jones often paints himself as a champion of truth while simultaneously twisting facts, creating narratives that serve his performance rather than the audience's understanding. His brilliance in manipulating perception is undeniable, but it is coupled with overconfidence, a tendency to underestimate those who approach confrontation with calm intelligence rather than volume. This is the crucial flaw that sets the stage. For the hero's eventual triumph, every empire of bluster carries a hidden vulnerability, and for Jones, that vulnerability is subtle but lethal, an inability to anticipate integrity and composure when it stands unshaken in his path. His public persona has been meticulously constructed over years of controversy. Moments of dramatic confrontation, viral outbursts, and headline-grabbing debates have earned him a fearsome reputation. To many, he is a villain whose words wield power far beyond their merit. His influence is amplified by a loyal following, who see him as a fearless truth-teller. And yet this very loyalty creates an echo chamber, reinforcing his sense of invincibility. In the controlled chaos of a live broadcast, he has always relied on his reputation to intimidate, to dominate, and to dictate the pace of every exchange. But this moment with Jasmine Crockett represents something Jones has rarely encountered: a force of intellect and moral authority that cannot be unsettled. While he thrives in the storm, she remains the eye of it, calm, deliberate, and prepared. The villain, so accustomed to eliciting fear and hesitation, steps into the arena. Under the illusion of control, unaware that the rules of engagement are shifting. Every sneer, every mocking tone, every interruption now carries the weight of impending defeat, even if he does not yet recognize it. Jones' history, however, makes him dangerous in this arena. He is unpredictable, relentless, and fiercely stubborn. A misstep by Crockett could have been amplified instantly, turned into fodder for ridicule, or weaponized to undermine her credibility. That is the nature of facing a figure like him. The margin for error is razor-thin, the consequences amplified by his fame and the fervor of his followers. He has mastered confrontation over decades, yet his mastery is limited to those who react. In fear or confusion, Crockett's calm presence, her unwavering gaze, her readiness to engage intellectually disrupt the pattern he has relied on for years. In cinematic terms, the villain has been fully established, formidable, unpredictable, and seemingly invincible. Every viewer understands the risk, the tension, and the stakes. The world sees not just a man shouting on air, but an archetype of arrogance and unchecked power, a villain, whose downfall has been carefully foreshadowed by the very confidence that makes him dangerous. And as the broadcast continues, the audience senses the inevitable collision, the moment where hubris will meet reason. And the seasoned provocateur will confront a force he cannot dominate through noise alone. In this backstory, the contrast is clear. The villain thrives on chaos, manipulation, and fear, yet he carries the seeds of his own undoing. Every prior victory, every performance of dominance, only heightens the dramatic potential for his defeat. He is prepared to fight with volume, but he is unprepared for integrity. He is ready for spectacle, but he is unready for precision. The stage is set, and the villain, in all his arrogance, does not yet realize that the narrative has shifted. This confrontation is no ordinary clash. It is the culmination of decades of preparation by the hero, meeting decades of unchecked bluster by the villain, and the outcome, though unspoken, hangs in the balance. Jasmine Crockett's story begins long before the bright lights of the broadcast studio illuminated her poised figure. Her journey is one marked not by spectacle or provocation, but by steadfast dedication, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to justice. Born into a world where every choice was scrutinized, every voice measured, and every opportunity hard-won, Crockett learned early the value of perseverance. Her formative years were defined by both challenges and triumphs that would shape not only her intellect, but her character. Every obstacle she faced, from navigating systemic inequalities to overcoming personal setbacks, became a stepping stone toward the kind of strength and clarity she would later demonstrate on national stages. Education played a pivotal role in Crockett's ascent. Through years of disciplined study and relentless pursuit of knowledge, she cultivated a mind capable of both analytical precision and moral discernment. Law, public policy, and advocacy were not just professions to her. They were instruments through which she could effect tangible change. While some might have been daunted by the weight of expectations and the scrutiny of public life, Crockett thrived in it. Each late-night study session, each challenging debate in her formative years, and each carefully considered decision reinforced a foundation that would allow her to confront the most formidable adversaries with confidence and clarity. Her career in public service further sharpened her skills and character. Crockett has walked the corridors of power with purpose, tackling issues that others might avoid, championing causes often overlooked, and speaking for those whose voices were marginalized. She has navigated the complex interplay of policy, media, scrutiny, and public expectation with a grace that few possess. Through every victory and every setback, she maintained a remarkable composure, a quiet strength that signaled to the world that her intellect and integrity were unshakable. Each experience added layers to her ability to respond under pressure, to articulate truth with precision, and to stand firm when confronted with hostility. Her journey has also been deeply personal. Behind the poised exterior lies a narrative of sacrifice, resilience, and relentless drive. Every challenge, whether systemic, societal, or personal, has been transformed into a lesson in strategy and patience. This is a hero forged not in moments of ease, but in moments of trial. Where others might falter, Crockett's response has always been to prepare, to anticipate, and to fortify herself with knowledge, empathy, and moral conviction. It is precisely this combination that makes her formidable in confrontations that rely not on volume or aggression, but on intelligence, composure, courage. Crockett's rise has also been guided by a vision larger than personal acclaim. She embodies the principle that true power lies not in dominating others, but in serving the public with honesty and clarity. Her work has consistently reflected a commitment to justice, transparency, and advocacy for those who often lack representation. In the context of a live confrontation with a provocateur like Alex Jones, this grounding provides a strategic advantage. Her strength is rooted not in ego, but in principle. Every calculated pause, every measured word, and every deliberate tone in her eventual response is informed by decades of experience, education, and service. Her ability to command attention without resorting to theatrics is perhaps her greatest strength. Where Jones thrives on chaos, Crockett excels in clarity. Where he relies on spectacle, she relies on substance. This is the hero archetype fully realized, poised under pressure, armed with intellect and moral authority, and ready to confront a figure whose reputation is built on provocation. The contrast is cinematic in itself. The calm, deliberate hero against the loud, unpredictable villain. And it sets the stage for a confrontation that will resonate far beyond the broadcast itself as viewers. The audience is drawn to more than just Crockett's words. They are drawn to the narrative of her journey. Every challenge she has overcome, every strategic decision she has made, and every principle she has upheld culminates in this very moment. This is a hero whose credibility is earned, whose authority is grounded in truth, and whose presence commands respect not through intimidation, but through preparation and conviction. In facing a figure like Jones, Crockett's background becomes the lens through which every word, every gesture, and every pause is magnified, revealing the depth of her strength and the inevitability of her triumph. Even before she speaks, the audience feels the weight of her history, the calculated precision behind her gaze, the quiet confidence that only comes from a life dedicated to purpose. The hero is ready. Years of preparation, experience, and resilience converge in a single moment. And in this poised anticipation, viewers understand that what they are about to witness is not just a debate, but a definitive statement of principle, intellect, and courage. The stage is set, the hero is prepared, and the audience waits with bated breath for the storm to meet its calm, for the villain's chaos to collide with Crockett's unwavering resolve. The broadcast has now reached a fever pitch. Tension in the studio is almost palpable, a living pulse that seems to vibrate through the cameras and into the homes of every viewer. Alex Jones, energized by the chaos he has cultivated for decades, launches into his on-air barrage with relentless aggression. His voice rises and falls in unpredictable patterns, a torrent of interruptions and mockery designed to unsettle anyone who dares to stand against him. The audience senses the danger. Every word is a calculated provocation, every gesture a challenge. Is the storm, wild and uncontained, and for a moment, it seems as though he controls the narrative entirely. But Crockett remains unwavering. Her posture is calm, her expression composed, her gaze steady. The contrast could not be more dramatic. The villain thrives in noise, while the hero commands silence. Each interruption is met with a measured response, each sneer with subtle deflection. She refuses to escalate unnecessarily, yet every word she does speak carries weight, precision, and authority. The studio, once a simple platform for discussion, has become a battlefield of wills. Viewers can feel it in their own pulse. The stakes are no longer just about the exchange of words, but about the clash of principles, intellect, and composure. Jones. Attacks intensify, growing sharper, faster, and more personal. He mocks her record, questions her experience, and attempts to diminish her credibility with a flurry of ad-libs designed to rattle her confidence. Yet Crockett's poise remains unbroken. In cinematic terms, this is the build-up to the storms. I Every insult he hurls serves to heighten anticipation, to stretch the tension to a near breaking point. The audience can sense it. Something monumental is about to occur. A pivot that will turn the tide in favor of the hero. The verbal skirmish escalates further as Jones grows visibly agitated. Small tells, the tightening of his jaw, the flaring of nostrils, the slight twitch in his hands betray his rising panic. The villain, used to dominance through fear and volume, now confronts a force he cannot manipulate through intimidation alone. Crockett's calm is not passive. It is deliberate, strategic, and quietly powerful. She allows him to overextend, to reveal cracks in his performance, all while maintaining an aura of controlled authority that only adds to the suspense. The live audience reacts in real time. Murmurs of disbelief and anticipation spreading through the room. Online viewers sense the escalating drama, tuning in closer, replaying every moment, waiting for the decisive moment that will inevitably arrive. The narrative tension builds like a coiled spring. Every misstep by Jones, every measured glance from Crockett tightens the emotional grip on the viewer. The story unfolding is no longer merely a broadcast. It is a cinematic tableau of heroism versus chaos, reason versus provocation. As the debate reaches its peak, Jones' interruptions become frantic, bordering on desperation. He leans forward, gestures wildly, and raises his voice to the point where clarity gives way to chaos. Crockett, however, uses every microsecond of this escalation to her advantage. She observes, calculates, and prepares each moment of verbal aggression from him, becoming a foothold for her inevitable counterattack. The audience, sensing the impending climax, is held captive in the suspense. Every viewer feels the weight of the moment, the anticipation of the hero's rise, and the looming reckoning for the villain. The scene is set for the turning point. Jones, in his overconfidence, has created the perfect conditions for his own downfall. Crockett, having absorbed and navigated the storm, is poised to deliver the response that will shatter the villain's facade. The escalation has served its purpose. It has exposed the arrogance, tested the composure, and primed the audience for the cinematic payoff. The villain is rattled, the hero is prepared, and the suspense reaches an almost unbearable crescendo. The next words, the next pause, the next moment will determine not only the outcome of this confrontation, but how history remembers this clash of power, intellect, and integrity. The room falls into a tense hush. Every eye in the studio, every camera lens, every viewer at home senses the pause, the calm before the storm that is about to redefine the confrontation. Alex Jones, still fueled by aggression, expects Crockett to falter under his relentless barrage. He anticipates defensiveness, hesitation, or even a momentary slip that he can exploit to regain dominance. But Crockett is not a participant in this spectacle for drama's sake. No, she is a strategist, master of timing, and her moment is now. Every second of silence stretches, heightening anticipation, while the audience leans forward instinctively, hearts pounding, ready to witness a verbal reckoning of historic proportions. Then she speaks, not with volume, not with theatrics, but with precision, clarity, and undeniable authority. Her words are deliberate, each syllable landing like a calculated strike, resonating through the studio and across every screen broadcasting the confrontation. She begins by dismantling Jones' arguments, deconstructing his provocations with an intellectual rigor that leaves no room for misinterpretation. Every factual assertion, every moral point, is woven into a narrative that not only counters his claims but exposes the contradictions he relies on to manipulate perception. The audience feels it immediately. The villain's armor of bluster is vulnerable to reason, and the hero's intellect is a force to be reckoned with. Crockett's delivery is cinematic in its timing. Pauses are strategically placed, allowing her words to echo, magnifying their impact. The live audience gasps, murmurs ripple through the room, and even Jones' followers online sense the shift in momentum. The villain's composure begins to crack, subtle at first, a twitch of the eye, a brief hesitation in speech, but unmistakable. Crockett seizes the narrative, turning every prior insult into evidence of her resilience and judgment, frames the confrontation as a larger struggle between integrity and manipulation, reason and chaos, dignity and provocation. The framing is impeccable. The hero rises as the villain falters, and the audience can sense the inevitability of the outcome. Jones attempts to interject, but each interruption is met with a calm, precise rebuttal that dismantles his momentum. Crockett anticipates his tactics, neutralizes them in real time, and turns his aggression into a showcase of his overreach. Every flailing argument, every attempted insult, only strengthens her position. The villain's own energy becomes the instrument of his undoing. The audience, captivated by this display of mastery, experiences a roller coaster of emotion, tension, suspense, shock, and awe, all coalescing into the cinematic moment they have been waiting for. The hero's counterattack intensifies. Crockett incorporates examples from Jones' own history, his past statements, and public actions, weaving them seamlessly into a narrative that exposes his inconsistency, arrogance, and lack of accountability. The brilliance lies not in attacking personally, but in framing the confrontation as a lesson in truth, logic, and responsibility. Her composure magnifies the contrast. The more he spirals, the calmer and more commanding she becomes. It is a dance of intellect against aggression, strategy against chaos, and moral authority against performative bluster. Crockett's final lines land with a cinematic punch. Every pause, every inflection, every measured glance at the cameras and the audience underscores the precision of her delivery. Jones' expression, once smug and self-assured, now reveals confusion, frustration, and the dawning realization that he is outmatched. The villain's reputation for dominance crumbles in real time, witnessed not only by the studio audience but by millions online. Memes, commentary, and real-time social media reactions explode as viewers recognize the magnitude of what has just occurred. The moment becomes viral, a textbook example of intellect overcoming bluster, of preparation outmaneuvering chaos. The counterattack does not merely end the debate. It transforms the narrative. Crockett reframes the confrontation into a larger, moral lesson, demonstrating how reason, preparation, composure are more powerful than aggression, fear-mongering, or theatrics. Her calm yet devastating dismantling of Jones' arguments leaves the audience both exhilarated and inspired. The villain, once a force of intimidation, now serves as a foil that highlights the hero's mastery. Every reaction in the room, audible gasps, murmurs of admiration, and stunned silence reflects the emotional resonance of the moment. By the end of this counterattack, the narrative has fully shifted. The hero stands elevated, commanding respect and admiration. While the villain is reduced to scrambling for control in a situation he no longer dominates, the audience experiences catharsis, satisfaction, empowerment, and validation. The payoff for the suspense that has been meticulously built over the course of the confrontation, every viewer feels the emotional weight of Crockett's triumph, understanding that this is more than a broadcast. It is a demonstration of principle, courage, and the power of intellect, executed with precision. The mic drop moment lingers, echoing beyond the broadcast. Viewers are left in awe of Crockett's strategic brilliance and unshakable composure. Jones, once a towering figure of provocation, is revealed as fallible, unprepared for the force of reason he underestimated. The scene ends with a cinematic resonance. The hero victorious, the villain humbled. The audience forever imprinted with the image of integrity triumphing over chaos. The anticipation of the aftermath, the social media firestorm, and the cultural ripple effect looms, creating suspense for what comes next, and leaving viewers desperate to see the consequences of this extraordinary encounter. The moment the broadcast ends, the world erupts. Social media ignites in real time, a digital wildfire consuming every platform where the confrontation was witnessed. Hashtags trend within minutes, clips are shared and reshared, and viewers from across the globe dissect every pause, every word, every piercing glance. Hashtag Jasmine Crockett, hashtag Alex Jones, and hashtag mic drop dominate feeds, turning a single debate into a viral cultural event. The hero's composure and precision become the topic of conversation in households, online forums, and newsrooms alike. The audience doesn't just watch, they participate, feeling as if they themselves were part of the historic confrontation. The energy is electric, palpable, and relentless. Commentators and political analysts weigh in, some in awe, others reluctantly conceding the power of Crockett's arguments. Every expert breakdown reinforces what viewers already sensed. The villain, despite his history of dominance, was exposed. Analysts dissect Jones' rhetorical strategies, highlighting how his reliance on volume and intimidation collapsed in the face of measured intellect. Meanwhile, Crockett's methodical dismantling of his provocations becomes a case study in public discourse, civic courage, and moral authority. It is a moment where preparation, principle, and presence of mind prove more influential than theatrics and chaos. Memes and social media reactions amplify the impact. Quick, witty clips of Crockett's most decisive lines circulate endlessly, turning her measured words into viral touchstones. Users create commentary threads, praising her composure, drawing comparisons to historic debates where intellect triumphed. Over bluster, the broadcast becomes more than entertainment. It is a cultural touchstone, a visual and verbal representation of dignity confronting arrogance. Across TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, audiences revel in the spectacle. Yet beneath the viral nature lies a shared recognition of principle and reason prevailing. Even politicians and celebrities weigh in, some lauding Crockett's performance, others scrutinizing Jones' unraveling. The ripple effect spreads through mainstream media, with headlines emphasizing the unprecedented nature of the exchange. The villain's reputation, carefully constructed over decades, is called into question. Every misstep, every pause, every faltering rebuttal is replayed, analyzed, and magnified. The hero, by contrast, is celebrated not just for defeating a provocateur, but for elevating the discourse. Crockett's composure becomes synonymous with integrity, her words a blueprint for how one might confront intimidation without sacrificing dignity. The broadcast's cultural impact reaches educational and activist circles as well. Law students, journalists, and civic advocates dissect her approach, using it as a teaching tool for effective communication, strategic thinking, and public persuasion. Every pause, every calculated inflection is studied, reinforcing the notion that intellect and preparation are weapons stronger than intimidation. The hero's triumph extends beyond the studio. It's resonating with viewers who now see a real-world example of reason triumphing over aggression. Meanwhile, the villain's followers experience cognitive dissonance. Jones' base, accustomed to seeing him dominate debates through sheer force and spectacle, now witnesses the fragility beneath the performance. Some remain loyal, rationalizing the outcome, while others share viral clips highlighting his mistakes. The clash becomes a conversation about accountability, integrity, and the role of public figures in shaping discourse. The villain's fallibility, amplified by the hero's calm authority, becomes a lens through which viewers examine power, influence, and morality in the digital age. The aftermath is instantaneous, multifaceted, and magnified. Social media trends, expert commentary, memes, and viral clips coalesce into a cultural phenomenon. The hero's victory is celebrated not merely as a personal triumph, but as a symbolic moment of reason prevailing over chaos. Principle overcoming provocation, and composure defeating theatrics. Viewers feel validated, inspired, and emotionally invested. Recognizing that the confrontation was about more than words, it was a demonstration of courage, intellect, and moral clarity in real time. As the dust settles, the narrative is clear. The hero has not only won the debate, but has reshaped the cultural conversation. The villain, exposed and rattled, becomes a cautionary example of overconfidence, while Crockett's methodical, poised, and strategic approach establishes a new standard for public discourse. The shockwaves ripple outward, leaving viewers both exhilarated and reflective, and setting the stage for the resolution where the moral and inspirational weight of this confrontation will be fully realized. As the immediate chaos of the broadcast fades, a deeper truth emerges. This confrontation between Jasmine Crockett and Alex Jones was never just about who won a debate or dominated the airwaves. It was a lesson in integrity, courage, and the enduring power of preparation. Where the villain relied on volume, theatrics, and provocation, the hero relied on clarity, intellect, and principle. The narrative is now firmly set. Arrogance and bluster can entertain, but they cannot withstand reason, dignity, and steadfast resolve. The audience feels this truth intuitively, and it resonates far beyond the studio. Crockett's triumph is a testament to the power of preparation. Every word she spoke, every pause she measured, and every reference she made was the product of years of experience, education, and commitment to her ideals. She did not stumble. She did not rely on reactionary emotion. She controlled the narrative. From start to finish, the hero's victory lies not in overpowering her opponent with volume or theatrics, but in demonstrating that knowledge, composure, and integrity are more compelling than aggression. The lesson is universal. When faced with intimidation or chaos, calm authority and preparation will always prevail. The moral lesson extends beyond politics or media. It is a reflection of life itself. Challenges are inevitable, confrontations unavoidable, and adversaries often unpredictable. Yet it is how one responds that defines the outcome. Crockett's approach embodies the principle that true power is exercised quietly, deliberately, and with moral clarity. It is not the loudest voice that commands respect, but the voice guided by reason, experience, and a commitment to truth. Her example inspires viewers to confront their own challenges with courage and calculated resolve. Rather than fear or reactionary emotion, the ripple effect of this moment also underscores the importance of accountability. The villain, despite his history of influence and spectacle, was held to a standard of reason and civility. The confrontation demonstrates that no matter how dominant or intimidating someone may appear, a force grounded in principle and intellect can recalibrate the narrative. Audiences across the country and around the world recognize this dynamic. In real time, the lesson is clear. Arrogance may entertain, but it does not withstand scrutiny or integrity. Crockett's victory also carries a message about representation and empowerment. She embodies the hero archetype, not just in intellect, but in lived experience and public service. Her ability to navigate the confrontation with grace and authority sends a message to viewers who may feel marginalized or underestimated. Preparedness, education, and composure are tools anyone can cultivate to assert influence and protect dignity. It is a call to action, encouraging the audience to approach challenges in their own lives with the same unwavering clarity and courage. The cinematic framing of this moment is also symbolic. The villain, once a figure of intimidation, has been rendered vulnerable by his own overconfidence. The hero, grounded in principle and expertise, stands tall. The contrast is undeniable, reinforcing the timeless narrative of integrity prevailing over ego, reason prevailing over chaos, and preparation prevailing over impulsive theatrics. This resolution leaves the audience not only satisfied but inspired, with a clear understanding that courage and intellect are not just tools for debate, but instruments for shaping the world. Finally, this confrontation leaves a lasting impression that transcends the immediate spectacle. It becomes a benchmark for public discourse, a model for facing aggression, and a source of inspiration for anyone who has ever faced a challenge that seemed insurmountable. The hero's triumph is a celebration of dignity, intelligence, and moral courage, and it reminds viewers that standing firm in truth is not only powerful, it is transformative. The audience walks away with more than shock or entertainment. They walk away with a renewed understanding of what it means to confront adversity with unwavering resolve and principled authority. As the broadcast fades from live screens, the resonance of what just unfolded continues to ripple across every platform. Jasmine Crockett has not only outmatched Alex Jones, she has demonstrated a standard for how integrity, preparation, and composure can confront chaos and intimidation. The audience is left with a clear message. Power built on bluster may momentarily intimidate, but true influence is grounded in knowledge, principle, and calm authority. Every viewer now understands that heroism is not about volume or spectacle, but about strategy, clarity, and moral courage. This is the moment to reflect on what has been witnessed. It is more than a single victory. It is a reminder that preparation, intellect, and principle can overcome even the most intimidating opposition. Every challenge in life, professional, personal, or societal, mirrors this dynamic. The confrontation serves as a blueprint for facing adversity. Remain composed, know your facts, trust your preparation, and let reason and integrity guide every response. In doing so, you not only survive the storm, but emerge stronger and more influential. 4. Viewers, the call to action is clear. Engage with this moment, share it, and let the lessons resonate in your own life. Subscribe to follow more stories that highlight courage, principle, and intelligence confronting chaos and provocation. Share this broadcast with others to inspire discussions about integrity, reason, and composure. Be a part of a movement that values thoughtful confrontation over reactionary aggression. Stand up, speak clearly, and carry the lesson forward. The calm prepared and principled voice always has the power to turn the tide. This is not just the end of a debate, it is the beginning of a cultural reflection. Carry the lesson, apply the insight, and remember that in every challenge, the hero within you can emerge victorious, just as Jasmine Crockett did today.